Welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. My name is Chris Ringler. I am an author, once in a while filmmaker, blogger, do a lot of stuffer. Living in Flint, Michigan, and this is my weird little blog, podcast. Sorry, doing things. But this is my little slice of strangeness on the internet, where I get to ramble and talk about the oddball things that interest me. So, it occurs to me, I always talk about writing and how I write and this and that, and I've blogged about it, but I've never really talked about kind of my process and kind of my idea of the process in general. I figured this might be a good chance to do that. So for me, I usually, I always have a million ideas in my head, just kind of floating around. And a lot of my ideas for stuff come from, a word, a name. And I think there's always something more to it than that. Writing is kind of like an alchemy, and that there's a little bit of magic in the process. And in that, there's for me, so when I write, between my mind and my hands, that's when things kind of form. That's when the stories form. That's where everything comes from. It's not simple. It's not as simple as just I know what I'm going to say. I know what I want to do. It's the process of writing that kind of draws it out. It's kind of like a summoning spell. So a lot of times I'll work from a name. So best example I just wrote last week. I wrote a novella, and I revised it over the last few days. So for that, I was working a job for a local college. I was helping their admissions department kind of promote the school, and I was at a county fair. And so I'm there, and I'm looking around, and I looked at one of the rides, and I was taking pictures, and I got the strangest idea for something. And I want to give away kind of the crux of the book when it's not going to come out for several months. But I got an idea. I was like, So I had whenever I go to stuff, I always have a notebook. If I'm getting bored, I want to write some notes down. So I wrote some notes, and I started kind of fleshing things out and kind of going over ideas and kind of so this and that and this. And I have another book started as well, and I was kind of going over in my head, I'd work on one, I'd work on the other one, and I didn't quite know which path I wanted to pursue. I wanted to write both books. I just wasn't sure which one I had an interest in kind of pursuing more. So I decided to start working on the book about the fair. And I started slow. And as I started writing, I started falling more and more in love with it. So I decided I'm focusing on this. And it was funny because, again, I don't have an interest in putting it out until next year. I put out, a book out, a couple books out this year, so, I'm not trying to rush, put 100 books out in 1 year. But as I was writing it, I just got kind of caught up in the spell of it, and I just kind of banged the thing out. And that's a novella. It's not anything lengthy. It's 50 pages, 1.5 spacing. But it's a straight-up novella. And I love it. I love what it is. I love what it became. And so I don't have a regimen. To me, you write when you want to write. If you force it, it's gonna read forced. But saying that, I'm always kind of thinking, and I'm always kind of writing ideas and writing, where you can doodle, draw when you're not ready to kind of commit to a full art piece. You doodle. You're just keeping your mind going and kind of fleshing out ideas. That's what some of the stuff is when you're just writing ideas, like, oh, a man in a house that is a gourd, whatever, a sentient waffle. And you write that, and then I have like a little thing where I keep them just in case if someday comes and I'm like, gosh, I just, I had that idea, and I can go back to it. People that use notebooks, I have tons of scraps of paper everywhere. But yeah, like if you're not feeling it, you're always, to me, like, and you can get writer's block, but I think a lot of it is trying to force it. Like if you're not feeling like you want to write, don't write. Unless it's your job, don't force yourself. Like, enjoy it, because if you start doing that, you're going to lose your love for it, and you will force it, and that destroys the whole purpose of doing it. It's a release, it's an escape. So for, like I say, for me, I'm always writing down stuff. I'm always thinking of things. You should be well read. You should read whatever the heck you want. To me, and these are all. I am no one as far as writing goes, but these are my tips and tricks. Read what the heck you want to read. Enjoy it. Enjoy reading. Again, if you start getting, treating it like it's a project that you have to kind of do because you got to be well read, you're gonna not like it. That's why people don't like to read. It's because they're shamed. Read what you want. Like, enjoy it. Write what you want. And that's the thing too, and this is again, like, not writing with like, I'm going to get published and I'm going to try to hit the marks. We're not even dealing with that. This is just writing, because to me, everyone can write. Everyone can tell their story. It's just learning how to do it, and then finding your voice and how you want to do it. If it's a poem or a sonnet or a novel or short story, however, play. It's just finding how you want to do it, and that's what's going to make the big difference. So yeah, for me, like, I have these notes, and if I get struck, I write, and I'll start it. And again, I'm weird. I adapt to whatever I need to for my writing. I write on a laptop now in front of the TV. I can write with stuff going on. I write at work. Like I say, I adapt. And that's what you kind of have to do, is because very few of us have a schedule that's so permanent that you can kind of say, oh, I'm going to write from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day, or every night from 8 p.m. to midnight every night. Like, our lives change. You kind of got to go with the flow, and you write when you can. But you also shouldn't shame yourself for not writing. I mean, it stinks. The bummer is when you want to write and you're desperate to write and you can't find the time. But again, you can't shame yourself. Like, life has its way of getting in our way all the time, and you just kind of got to go with it and do the best you can with what you can. Shaming yourself isn't going to help. And it's not gonna make your writing better. So you find a schedule that works for you, and you write. And when you can't get to a computer, get to whatever a typewriter, take notes. Some authors will use note programs. Some will write down notes. Whatever. Again, you're gonna find your way. Like, as you do this, like, listen to other people, absolutely. But, like, you're gonna find your way. You're gonna find what works for you. In your schedule, in your life. If it's a notebook, if it's a computer, if it's a note program on your tablet, if it's on your phone, whatever. But yeah, if you can't write and you feel like you have all these ideas, take notes. Do it the way that works for you. And like, the biggest thing is people will give up. And I have sat on stories for months and months and months. Like, my novel that I finally redid last year, Roadkill. Like, I sat on that thing for decades, and I finally reached a point where I'm like, if I don't write it, it's not going to be written, and I want it written. I want to get this out of me. I want to get this into the world. And so there was an aspect of forcing myself. And again, though, I had lots of notes. And see, the thing is with the notes, it's a cheat. It's because you're writing these notes, and slowly you're building the story with those notes. What happens is you start looking like, oh, okay, so the car turns into a werewolf over here, and then at the end the werewolf, finally is cured and drives the car away in the sunset. Okay, so how does he go from, a car to a werewolf to man, driving a car? And you start building connective tissue. For Roadkill, I knew how it began, I knew how it ended, and I just had to build a bridge. And I built that slowly. It's like, okay, well, so if it's going to end this way, I kind of know I got to go down this path because I got to get to where I need to be. And you want to get there naturally. You don't want to feel forced. So you got to go this way and that way. And it's trial and error. That's the deal with revisions and having people read it and editing and all that stuff. Is just write it. Like, that's what I do. Is just like, and people tell you that all the time. Like, just for the first draft, it's a first draft. Don't worry about it. It's your work. Don't worry about it. Write it that way that works, and just keep writing. If you're like, okay, so guy, this car turns into a werewolf, blah blah. It's like, well, why would a car turn into a werewolf? Like, if you know what you want the story to say, and you know how you want to say it, like, you can figure that stuff out. You can start like, okay, well, it's a guy that turned into a car because he was in a car accident and the grill bit him. I mean, you can whatever. I mean, and again, you can get it deep into stuff like, well, where you really, and you can do this in later drafts where you start like honing in, like, okay, well, I want this to make sense. I want this as a historical book, so I want it to make historical sense. I want it to make cultural sense. I want it to make, plot sense. You start putting it together yourself. But first, you just want to write. It doesn't have to make pure sense. You have to know which, like some of the stuff, it's almost like you're writing for future you. So you just write it. It's like, okay, so the ghost and goes and the space and it does this and that and blah blah. And then you go back like, oh, okay, no, all right. It's like, now I know what I was thinking and this is what I want to do, and that's kind of what I was thinking about this and that, and that's how you do it. But anybody can write. You can write. Anyone can write. It's a matter of just believing in it and doing it. What you do with it from there, we can talk about another time. But like, finding your motivation, finding your inspiration, and pushing yourself to do it. And sometimes you have to push yourself, but that's where the note-taking comes in, is that you're going to start seeing like, oh gosh, I have most of this book written. I just have to connect it all. And that's a big part of it, is connecting it and making it make sense. And it's great because those notes, those ideas, you can, anything, like, oh, okay, star crabs come down and they fight the werewolf car, and this happens and that happens, blah blah, and then you like start going through it all, like, okay, that doesn't make sense because this note over here that says that that's actually it's a sea monster that did it, so okay, I'm going to drop that. But like, oh, but that's an interesting idea. You can kind of Frankenstein the story together with the best ideas. And truly, like, I get burned out, I get bummed out, like with the sales part and all of that. But like, the writing can be so pure. Like, I had so much fun writing this fair book. And that's what it's about. And like the discovery of like, oh my gosh, this is great. I love this idea. This like, you get so jazzed about it. And that's being in love with it. That's being in love with the writing and the art. And if you're not in love with it, then, you don't have to kill your darlings, as it were, and just like destroy the whole book. Maybe you shelve it. Maybe put it away and let it go for a while, and then like your mind will get back to it when it's ready. And you'll start thinking like, oh, that's a cool idea. I've got this one idea, and blah blah, and go back and look at it again. Worst case scenario, you take that story and you chop it up into parts to use in other stories. You treat it like it's a chop. You take the best parts, like, okay, cool, so I want to write a story about a car. Not a car that turns into a werewolf, just a car. So, okay, I'm going to take that part. Oh, I want to write a story about a werewolf. Okay, I want to write a story about a guy that thinks he's a car. Like, you take the best parts and you part them out if the story doesn't work. And that's the fun, is the kind of like, you're in control. You choose what to do. And your style and your craft, all that comes with practice and with like doing it. And it does help to read it. It helps to like have people read it. It helps to like perform it. It helps all those things, because when you hear it out loud, you're catching things that you didn't catch otherwise. Like, some things sound, dialogue specifically, sound good on paper, but don't, like, when you say, I ain't going to take you to the town, Mary Lou. Like, what a guy saying, I ain't going to, like, what he say, I ain't going to, no, he say, I ain't going to take you to the town, Mary Lou. So you got to hear it in the voice. Yeah, it's all just kind of practice and doing. And don't let people tell you can't. Don't worry about, like, I don't know if people want to read it. I don't know if people want to buy it. I don't know. Just do it. Do it and worry about the rest later. Write your story. In the worst case scenario, you can put it online, on a forum, on a blog, on a whatever, and people, let people discover it. If you don't have any confidence in it, confidence comes later. But it's like any other art, you just got to do it, and you got to keep doing it, and not talk yourself out of doing it. Even if you don't have time, make notes. Like, if you have time for notes, read. Keep your mind full of stories. Listen to stories. Listen to people. All of that will benefit you in the end. And that's my how Chris writes Remedial 99. So I can talk more about it another time as well. Kind of my look in the self-publishing stuff. And again, all this stuff I've written on my blog, which is at spookychris.com. But sometimes it's nice to hear it in someone's voice, and kind of maybe catch more of how much I love writing, and how excited I get about it. But yeah, so this was my lovely little short blog. I will be back at some point. And if you want to write, and I hope you do. And I will talk to you soon. If you want to hear all of my podcasts or read my blogs, go to spookychris.com and you'll find everything. Thanks a lot. Bye.